Yo, what's good? Hairless minx of the blue sea. It's me. We back. Man, after a nice little break, right? We back at it with the hot fire. And you already know, every time we have a break, when we come back, we always see something. It's going to be a few things, right? But man, let's get right into it because we've been waiting on the I don't want to say, oh, I guess the development of Momo, but what he's actually going to be like in this form. Because we know for the rest of the series, at some point, Momo will still be important. So this is, I'm excited, man, to see what he's capable of just right now, right? So, of course, we got the cover, and hey, shout out to Peckham's, man, because that's the first thing I thought about was Peckham's, man. Gow, with Nami out here playing as a seamstress, and I don't know if that word Hayawate or however you say that. I guess couture, like juicy couture, the whole fashion thing. I just know if I was young Simba's age in this cover story, man, I would have been on Momo time. And I'm gonna leave it at that. So basically, we open up, which is a nice reference that we get back to the Fire Festival, right? Because what the Fire Festival actually represents with tying the dead to the living and ghosts, spirits, and the celebration of the afterlife, and how important that theme has been this entire arc to begin with, right? Including Odin's flashback. When we first got Odin in chapter 960, he was eating over the bones of someone who had died. Katsuzo, I believe, was the name of the guy. So that theme has been very important, right? An underlying theme of Wano with this. There was just respect for the afterlife in general, and even the gag stuff with Brooke and like Black Marie and things of that nature. So how they would progress during the fire festival, we can kind of tell would coincide with the fight with Kaido itself, right? Up until the finale, right? Because I'm making the assumption, at least, that by the time the fire festival is over, the most pivotal part of this war will also probably be over, right? Just the symbolism behind it. So I'm kind of thinking that's where that's going with that. And what I liked about it when we seen Tingoyama and Otoko, I think because of what he asked, right? He asked her, are you having fun? And you could see her smiling, and she just said, yeah. And the last time we saw them, Tangoyama was basically saying to Otama, how clear the night sky is. Speaking of Yasue, that he could see her, and see them, and that whole thing, and everything. Yeah, I remember this kid just lost their father, and this just happened. Even with Momo, even though we're used to him being in the story, for these kids, this is like yesterday they had parents and now they don't. You know what I mean? So I liked seeing Otoko smile for the first time, and it's not because of the negative side effects of a failed smile fruit, which stripped them of their emotions. So it's like this is the first time, really, I think we've seen Otoko smile and probably laugh, and it's matching up with how she actually would be feeling. I just thought it was cool because the stuff with Killer is different because of his personality, but most of the people who have defective smiles, you know, how that has a control of their emotions where, ugh, it's just disgusting, right? Even laughing while Yasue is dead and just that whole situation. So it was just nice, like I said. I noticed it. I don't know if that what Oda was going for, but that's what I got out of it. And I like that. And even Tengoyama is having a little flashback himself, basically thinking of his granddaughter. Basically, he got two granddaughters at this point. You know what I mean? That he's been taken care of in a sense where he's now thinking about Otama, like Otama, and remembering how brave Otama was to even like want to jump in the situation because this is her own too, and you know, nothing. She just didn't want to sit back and do nothing, you know. And like I've talked about before, a few chapters back with the whole youth being the future thing, for a child to have that kind of insight and bravery is, regardless of what you feel about her ability and right how it's being used in the war. But as we've seen, it really only works on fodder, so it's not as bad as what we thought could happen. You know, a couple of years back, if y'all remember that whole situation when we first had the references and whatnot. But I don't know, man. Like it'd be the equivalent of sending your child off to war. That's not a normal thing to even have to even think about. So I don't know. That's just to me it was cool to get an update while kind of getting some characterization for them. When you really think about the scope of Wano and the oppression that these people have been dealing with, this is their whole livelihood. Like most of the characters in One Piece, they don't know what peace is. Like they have their happy moments with who they care about, but 99% of their free time is under oppression. So, you know, but then we get to the top of Roof Piece, man, and we back on Roof Piece, and we see one of Bao Huang's little henchmen that reports things right with the different symbols, but this one is not like the bird or the rat. This is an actual person. So I'm assuming the ability used on a person is probably a lot better than a creature, right? Just because of the ability to properly communicate and whatnot. But this henchman has been here the whole time, unnoticed somehow. Apparently, and watching the fight, like we've seen in the Who's Who with Jimbei fight, and also with Nico Robin and Black Maria. So this kind of insinuates that because we know where about Juan was with the cyberpole dude, the derby hat guy, and the Udahara Keyscape hat guy, and the Dr. Seuss mask guy, that everything that goes on, they're aware of up until this point. That's if they're all there. You know, I talked about this a couple of chapters back. One of them might went to go quote unquote clean up the trash with Who's Who because of the supposedly outdated information, right? That we know that's not true, and or the fact that he was a member of Cypher Pole who's rogue. So they had an issue with that. So I just the henchman there just keeps an update with me about Cypher Pole, and I like the fact that they don't know that Momo is this dragon for now, anyway, at least, right? Because they can put two to two together, and there's no way they don't report something like this to the Gorosei. They're reporting everything else. Why would they not report this? It's not like they don't know Kaido was a dragon. This was just something that we weren't. It hadn't been confirmed to the reader, right? But you have to assume the people who already knew who Kaido was, they already knew all this. So this isn't really no new news to them. There being a second dragon, that information getting back probably falls back to Vegapunk because I just don't see how they wouldn't put two and two together. They might not have come up with the idea on how Momo got the fruit in the first place because people didn't report what happened back on Punk Hazard or something of that nature. But the odds of them not putting two and two together, they just don't know why he's an adult, right? They wouldn't know about Shinobu more than likely. That ability may or may not have been a major known ability. You know, devil fruits are rare as it is, especially anything regarding to Wano. So it's very possible that her fruit ability is not in any book somewhere just because she lives in Wano. It's very possible. So that part would make it interesting because I don't think they want the world to know about Momo. Not just because of the Vegapunk thing, but because of his ties to the Kozuki bloodline and because that brings back ties to Roger. That's information. This is get you wiped out information. So I just kind of wanted to bring that part up about the henchman guy being there because it just made me think about Cypher Pole and also knowing what's going on with the roof and everything that's been going on in this fight, including the rest of the supernova and Big Mom being there, which they knew about that already, but having somebody there like a news reporter is a totally different situation. For context, right? And what was the other thing? Just basically bring up the fact that he was pink. just it's kind of hard. I'm pretty sure the girls are gonna have an issue with this because why that fruit was picked in the first place and why that's the only perfect copy. It doesn't mean it's the only copy of a devil fruit out there. It's just the only perfect copy that we're aware of at the moment, right? There could be other devil fruits that are already in existence that we don't realize are copies. It just hasn't came up or been scientifically important to progress the story like it will be when we deal with Dr. Vegapunk because of the interrelations like I talk about all the time with Hockey, Sea Stone, Devil Fruits, the ancient weapons, what the Gorosei are really on. I doubt Vegapunk hasn't put two and two together with Instant Messenger Sama. There would be no way for him not to know. Maybe he doesn't never met Instant Messenger Sama, but the fact that Instant Messenger Sama exists, I find that very hard to believe that the smartest man in the entire series wouldn't be aware of some mysterious force, whatever that may be. But not to get too caught off, on a tangent. It's just that with Wano, how important it is to the rest of the series, especially the end game. It's kind of hard for me not to piece Wano with the Gorosei directly, right? Just because of how hard it was to get here and all the things that tie back to situations like the mink, right, and the Kozuki and the creation of the poneglyphs, which are spread throughout the entire world in a sense, at least on One Piece terms, right? And not to mention information about the world being on the moons and all this other stuff. So after Wano, this stuff is going to be a lot more important. So it's like every time we get these little bits and pieces about this stuff, I kind of want to make sure that we remember for later on at the story, that there was some foreshadowing here and things that have been kept up in the series, like underlying, right, besides Luffy's journey. Um, so yeah. And then now I think they just kind of panned around to different characters, right? Like Queen, and I think Queen understood that Yamato must have been the one fighting Kaido at the time. And then we cut to what we want, right? The actual engaging of battle with, well, man, one clap Kaido, man. Y'all already know what time it is because it's one, and you're done, son. Let's get into it, man. First things first. Kaido starts off with his most useless attack that is just for fodder and regular people. But we get the old hyper beam, right? and then Luffy's like, yo, if he did hyper beam, you can do it too. So go ahead and counter his with yours and we all good. Mom was like, yo, Luffy, man. This is my first time being in Adult Dragon. As for all we know, this might be the longest he's been in Dragon form, right? Since he's had this ability, because it's only been triggered off of trauma, like when he was thinking about Kaido and stuff like that. And so this is very possible. This is the very longest he's been in this form, at least to me, because of the way he acts and stuff. And he hasn't had time to, right? Based on how their life is. Actually, I think one time he was asleep as a dragon for quite some time. But anyway, you get my point. He hasn't tried to fight in this form. So there's like, it, it would be very hard to think like, oh, how do you do something? It's one thing when you have Sabo picking up the abilities of the Mirror instantly, but he's seen them before and he already knew how to fight, so it kind of makes sense to me. Momo's not in the same situation, so it makes sense to me why he can't. He's still getting over the fact that he's even doing this, right? But you know how Luffy is. Like, his talk no jutsu works a little bit different because he's kind of leading you on without leading you on. That's the one thing that makes it a little bit more tolerable from Luffy because it's not so much in your face. It's just he's very annoyed with you not overcoming whatever it is that's standing in your way when he can see it. That's not even a pun on his future sight. Like that's just how he is. He always looks at someone and sees whatever the greatest potential in them is from a positive standpoint. So him treating Momo like this has just been their relationship since he's been introduced. And in a situation like this, as annoying as it is, it's one of the few times where it's like, well, Momo, he's right, man. Because you guys are gonna die here. if you don't do this. You guys are all gonna die here. Let's not forget that part. You, your people, your homies, your motto, everybody. Everybody's gonna die here if you don't pull through. So it's just funny seeing that interaction. And Momo's first thing to do basically is like, well, I'll just dodge it. I can't counter it, but I can dodge, which is interesting how quickly he can move already. And I'm liking this. And then Luffy says something to him, right? Jumps up in the air and boom, it's elephant gun time. And if you notice, he's not in Snake Man just that quick. And this is something I've been touching on. What I want to see from Luffy as a whole is him being able to go from ability or gear or ability, going from using muscle balloon to go straight to Snake Man to using Red Rock to using Conquerors, being able to master all these techniques that are very pivotal because you can't fight any top tiers without this stuff. It's just not happening. Like, look how long, it's took. Like, you can say what you want, but the whole Conquerors thing, Conquerors coding, especially what we see in this chapter, the learning curve from Luffy in Conquerors will be a lot different, right? Because he's spent time, and we kind of seen this because this is kind of what the format was going to be, right? With armament and observation, and then now with Conquerors, and then I'm sure in the next arc we'll see even more. Because you have to remember, every time we see something dope from Luffy, when in terms of hockey, is the same way it is for Zoro. Every time we see something for Zoro, always remember, Mihawk already has something better than that. Always remember, Shanks had something better than that. The top tiers in the series besides Kaido, because let's keep it a buck. Like, Kaido has all these nice abilities, but Kaido isn't exactly like I'm not really sure what to call it. He doesn't have to be as technical because of how he is. He does have some nice techniques. I'm not going to put him out there like he has none. But I wouldn't put Kaido's use of his abilities on the same level as someone that you would think of like Law, just from a technical aspect. Not because he's dumb or anything, it's just he fights what fits him, right? Where someone else, if they were Kaido, might fight a little bit differently, but they wouldn't be, oh, or man, young Brock Lesnar, right? But I don't know, man. I don't know what else Momo's gonna do in this fight, but it's just funny seeing Luffy being able to shift between his, no pun intended, right? Shift between gears and abilities, and he elephant jumps in the air, you know, and we knew it was coming. He got him like this a long time ago. The first time this fight started, right when Kaido was drunk, he had to hit him with the elephant gun just to let him know he was there. This time, I think Kaido felt it. He felt it a little bit. It didn't really do nothing to him as we see as usual, but he at least felt it at the moment. That stung. It didn't tickle at all. But then he tells young Momo, "Hey, look, man, it's just like Luffy wanted to leave One Piece for a little bit, right? And start playing Pokemon. At this point, he told Dragonite, we're just gonna have you use abilities you're not supposed to have. Go and crunch down on Kaido, man. Just go and see what it feel like, right?" And Momo's like, "I can't do that. I'm not gonna bite Kaido, right?" And then we get the flashbacks, man, of what everything that Momo's been dealing with since he's been alive, right? And this man Kaido has taken everything from him, his people, his parents, his way of living, part of his childhood, the stuff with Orochi, like even his grandpa, depending on how you still feel about Sukiyaki at the same time, like he lost his grandpa and his pops and his moms. And for the time being, he lost his sister, flowing into the future, oppression, oppression, oppression. You see the people of your land, you have all the stress on you because you're the blood of Kozuki Oden, one of the greatest men of Wano who's ever existed. That's not Ryuma, right? Like he's that level. Oden is a national treasure to his country. So as his son, right, and how he feels about that, the pride of a Kazuki and feeling hopeless, same as earlier in this chapter, with Otama. She didn't want to feel hopeless. And that's kind of how like Momo's is dealing with the same thing, which this is normal. This is what you would expect to see from a kid, man. That's a lot to take on. An entire country of people are going to be dependent on you at some point. And when you're dealing with this situation with Kaido, it's just like you're overcoming things that wouldn't even make any sense. But thinking about his mom, and when Kaido had him above when he was holding him over the castle, dangling him, dangling him, just my for y'all that don't know, ain't seen that movie, you need to see it because it should be a American film requirement. When Red tells a certain character, my business hours are between 9 and 5. That's exactly what Kaido was doing. So I probably should have just edited this video just for that reference alone. But it's interesting that Toki was told to flee and she doesn't go anywhere. And you could actually, that's not important. I'm gonna get into that part. All I'm just gonna say about the Toki thing is that I'll get into that in a different video. I just thought that the whole panel was interesting that we got to see what happened before, right? Because we only got the part where Kaido was holding him outside the castle like he's gonna drop him. We didn't get into what happened inside the castle, with the whole situation with that. So seeing this part now, it's just like, and Momo snapped, right? Because like I said, Kaido took everything for him and he overcame that. And hey, man, oppression will do that to you. You try to push people down, and eventually someone's gonna fight back. It only takes one person to fight back. For you see what happened with Dragon and the revolutionaries, and even if that existed before him, who knows? But it probably only took one person, because in a way, Dragon kind of reminds me of Scar from Full Metal Alchemist, just his design in general and like the way they make him talk. He's not as religious sounding, but they kind of remind me of each other. But anyways, you know, for Momo, I think having this interaction with Luffy and the Straw Hats will actually keep him a more balanced person, right? Because if Momo was to go through all this trauma, there's no telling what kind of negative effect it could have on him. Where say he wants to be a great person, but then he overdoes it, right? Because of what happened to him growing up, and I'll never let this happen to my people. We don't need a Uchiha Madara mentality, right? Where if I think I know better for everybody to protect you, I'll just like the whole Doctor Doom like that. That's the way that could go. So having other people around you that pick you up in your darkest hours, the same way that Jinbei was there for Luffy, him going through this fight with Kaido, even though he's not really technically fighting Kaido, this will be a breaking point for Momo where it'll be hard. Like he'll still probably be goofy, like in a cowardly way, kind of like Usopp. Even though Usopp has never backed down from a fight the entire series, he just acts like he will run away and all that other stuff. I think it's kind of going to be like that with Momo because it's just like Luffy said. You just bit a Yonko on me. What could be more scary than what you just did? You just inflicted damage on a Yonko. These are untouchable people that just nobody, even the world government, don't even run up on these dudes. And you just tried to take a chunk out of one. You know what I mean? So it's just all that scary stuff. You can throw it out now. You didn't bit a Yonko. You can't go back to you just can't. Right? It's like how it is in life sometimes. Once you get over a fear or an obstacle, there's no excuses no more for you not to progress. You can't tell yourself like, oh well, this is holding me back. Well, you can't use that excuse no more. You already overcame it. You know what I mean? So I just that part is cool without it being too cheesy. Because Luffy is saying stuff, but like I said, it's not talk no jutsu level where you're like, oh, just shut up already. You know what I mean? I just like the way it's done. That's all I can say. And then we cut to away from this for a little bit, right? Because I think after Momo bit him, I'm not sure what attack Luffy used. Like he gave him the old Randy Orton out of nowhere treatment. I don't know if it was Red Rock or not, or I couldn't really tell. I'm not gonna cap on that. But whatever it did, it floored Kaido. So that's just all we need to know, right? And then we get the panel with Jack, the jobber, and Higurashi. And then we got Jack talking about like, well, I can only take one more hit, giving respect to Eno. I'm like, all right, whatever, man. And then the whole thing with the clouds, and then we got this back and forth with the moon thing and the luck, right? And we see basically Eno was down, and we see Petaline. Well, I'm always telling people don't sleep on Petaline. And he was getting the better of Nico. Of course, we see that didn't last long because once Luffy and Kaido clash with their conquerors that don't touch and split the sky, which was dope. We knew it was going to happen eventually, and it was dope. And what the anime is going to take 10 minutes to do it. I don't care. I'll spend 10 minutes just watching that because we're going to see it for the first time where Luffy is really officially on another level. Like, we knew it with some of the stuff he's been doing, regardless of how he's got there. I still don't think he's stronger than Kaido. It's just, he's gonna give him a run for his money, but he's not. I bet that's an iffy subject. You know what I mean? He's the MC and all of that, but he's still not stronger than Kaido. Like I like what I'm seeing. You know how it is for Luffy. He can go multiple rounds. I always appreciate that about him. And he take his L and he come back and he talk to you again until you get it right. But I still think it ain't gonna be enough because Kaido's still been on playtime for the most part. Like he played patty cake with Yamato for a little bit, and like yeah, Momo bit him and that was cool, but Kaido don't seem like anybody. He doesn't feel threatened in the slightest. But I do like that Luffy is bringing the hockey, as long as he's efficient with it. Because I say it all the time, we all know that's his weakness is his hockey efficiency. So I think that's another reason why he's not staying in one form for too long. Because that probably, like I talked about before with surface area and blah, 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 Boundo Man probably just eats way more hockey than Snake Man would, or just, using hockey in a moment as soon as you strike and then turning it off, right? That kind of thing, which I think that's something Luffy was going to be doing anyway. It just makes too much sense for him not to be. But, yeah, man, this fight is getting ready to get real. And now that they're not in the air no more and back on the ground, I'm just wondering what the sea part of the battle is going to be. Because that's got to be wild. Because we're going to see something broken, right? He's a dragon and water hasn't been involved yet in this fight. I still think there's going to be some more air stuff. Because Kaido's probably going to try to stop Momo from dropping Onigashima, right? However, it takes Momo to even figure that out. But I like the fact that when everybody in the chaos knows what's going on, and Big Mouth's still not taking none of this serious. She's just sitting there having a good old time with dirt on her face. And I don't know if the translation, obviously, I always support the Viz. But when Luffy says, I'm still going to beat you, Kaido, why do they have kids saying you better? That doesn't even, I get it, but I don't know if I like that. That's the two things I didn't like. One, I don't like Neko and being saved. I understand the coincidence and the representation of Luffy bringing Dawn, right? So him splitting the sky for a moon to save the mink is like it's kind of a parallel. It's just worked in a different format, right? Using the moon instead of the sun and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to keep it a buck bean. That's some nonsense, man. That's some nonsense. I mean, luck happens. I get it. And Oda's even telling you it's lucky. But man, come on, Oda. Jack the Jobber ain't my favorite character. But don't do these guys like that. Oh, the moon came back. Now you get clapped. I get it. Jack was saying, I can only take one. I could probably only stand one more hit. And then we see he gets slapped. God, don't do these boys like that. It is what it is, though. But what Kaido told Luffy, you think you stand a chance against me? I think it's interesting because he didn't tell Luffy you don't stand a chance. He asked him. And to me, that's different because before Kaido was just like talking to you like there's no way. Same way how I'm talking, there's no way. But now he's talking to him a little bit different, like with just this question in particular. And even Law is just like, where you been, man? I don't care how you showed up. I'm not impressed. Where you been, man? I'm out here sweating it out with Big Mom, babysitting kid because he's getting low diff by a dog from a long time ago that nobody knew about. Like, you need to get to work. But the one thing I will say that I did like with the Neko and Ino thing was them using Itoriu. That's it. Itoriu. Hold on. I'm gonna like that part because when they say it in anime, that's gonna go hard. You already know. Anime just been on one, and of course, the most obvious elephant in the room, no Zozo intended. The last panel will we get. Who's that peeking through the window? Wow! Ain't nobody now or Hochi, man. It's either Horochi or we're getting the little throw off and it's Conjuro posing as Orochi. But more than likely, right, it's just straight up Orochi. And it's just funny, he says, not my problem, I'm out of here. What is his plans? Does now he want to help Cypherpole? Does now he come crawling back? That's the only thing I can think of because that's the only only way he makes it out of this is to deal with Cypherpole. And man, are they gonna have fun? Like, well, you was just popping shots at me X amount of chapters ago. I believe you shot me in the face. Pause. Now look at you come crawling back. I don't know. But you know the world government has no problem doing deals as long as you provide them with what they want, they'll provide you with something. The quid pro quo is strong with the world government in the series, like to the point they even let somebody like Law work with them or Blackbeard, which you know, that's a different discussion. But this chapter was pretty dope, and it's gonna set up for something crazy. And Yamato realizing it's Momo instantly, pretty much, and how that's gonna come to play later on, like at the end of Wano, like I've been saying with the whole sword thing, like maybe I don't know. Something just tells me I don't know what Yamato is gonna do. I really don't. But I'm interested. I'm very interested. But anyway, you guys enjoy your weekend. Be safe out there. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for some laughs. And probably catch y'all Monday or Tuesday. I had to delay a video or two. Got a little busier than I expected, but it is what it is, right? Is there anything else I can think of from the chapter? No, but of course, as soon as I stop recording, I'll remember something that was probably important, right? It happens to everybody. But yeah, that's it, man. Class dismissed. Peace.